The screech of metal on concrete echoed through the quiet suburban street like a banshee's wail, jolting me awake at 3 a.m. I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding, sweat beading on my forehead despite the cool night air seeping through the cracked window. What the hell? My mind raced as I threw on a robe and stumbled downstairs, the wooden floors creaking under my bare feet like old bones protesting the disturbance. Outside, under the harsh glow of streetlights, a cement truck idled in my driveway, its massive drum churning with a low, ominous rumble. And there she was, Karen Whitaker, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association, standing triumphantly with her arms crossed, her perfectly coiffed blonde hair catching the light like a halo from hell. "This is for the good of the community, Mark," she sneered, her voice dripping with that fake sweet venom I'd come to loathe. "Your ugly water tank is an eyesore. We're filling it tonight." My stomach dropped. That tank wasn't just some backyard relic, it was my lifeline, fed by an ancient spring that quenched half the neighborhood's thirst in dry spells. But Karen didn't care about facts. She cared about control. And right then, as the gray sludge poured in with a sickening slurp, I knew this was war. The next morning, the sun rose hot and unforgiving, baking the concrete plug in my tank like a tombstone sealing a grave. I stood there in my yard, the grass still dewy underfoot, inhaling the faint metallic tang of drying cement mixed with the earthy scent of disturbed soil. My hands trembled as I dialed the police non-emergency line, my voice cracking with barely contained rage. "Someone vandalized my property last night, poured concrete into my water tank." The dispatcher sighed a long, weary exhale that mirrored my own frustration and promised to send someone over. But when Officer Ramirez arrived, his badge glinting in the sunlight, Karen was already there, perched on her porch across the street like a vulture eyeing carrion. She sauntered over, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement, clipboard in hand. "Officer, this is HOA business," she said, her tone all buttery innocence. "Mark's tank violates our covenants. It's hideous and attracts pests." Ramirez scratched his head, glancing between us, the air thick with tension. I felt a flush of heat creep up my neck, my fists clenching at my sides. "It's not just my tank," I spat. "That spring supplies water to the whole block. She's cut off our backup supply." But Karen just smiled that predatory grin, her eyes narrowing like slits. "Prove it," she challenged. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a tank, it was about her reigning supreme, crushing anyone who dared question her petty empire. Days blurred into a haze of paperwork and phone calls, the frustration building like a storm cloud over our cul-de-sac. I pored over old property deeds in my cluttered home office, the musty smell of yellowed paper filling the room as the ceiling fan whirred lazily overhead. My wife, Lena, hovered nearby, her fingers twisting a dish towel nervously. "Mark, maybe we should just let it go," she whispered, her voice soft but laced with worry. The lines around her eyes had deepened since this started, and I felt a pang of guilt twist in my gut. We'd moved to this neighborhood 5 years ago for the peace, the white picket fences and manicured lawns. But Karen had turned it into a battlefield. She ruled the HOA like a despot, fining people for overgrown hedges or unauthorized bird feeders. Her emails always ending with that passive-aggressive "for the betterment of our community." I slammed a fist on the desk, the thud echoing sharply. "No, Lena, she's gone too far." That night, as thunder rumbled in the distance and rain pattered against the windows like impatient fingers, I uncovered something buried in the county records. The spring under my tank wasn't private property. It was a public water source, documented back to the 1800s, shared by the original settlers. My breath caught, a rush of vindication flooding through me like cool water on parched earth. But Karen, she'd just committed sabotage on public infrastructure. Word spread fast in our tight-knit suburb, whispers turning to outright buzz at the weekly farmers market where the air hummed with the chatter of neighbors and the sweet aroma of fresh-baked pies. I bumped into old Mr. Hargrove, the retired engineer who'd lived here forever, his cane tapping rhythmically on the gravel path. "Heard about your tank, son," he grumbled, his voice gravelly from years of pipe smoke. That Whitaker woman's a piece of work. But did you know about her brother? I froze, the plastic bag of tomatoes slipping in my grip. Hargrove leaned in, his breath smelling faintly of peppermint. He's a contractor, owns that cement company she used. Nepotism at its finest. A chill ran down my spine despite the warm sun filtering through the market tents. This wasn't just petty tyranny. It was a family racket. Karen's brother, Vince, had been funneling HOA funds into his business for years, padding invoices for community improvements that never materialized. The revelation hit like a sucker punch, my mind reeling with the implications. I thanked Hargrove with a nod, my pulse quickening as I hurried home, the market's lively fiddle music fading behind me. Lena met me at the door, her eyes wide. "What is it?" she asked, sensing my turmoil. I pulled her close, inhaling the familiar lavender scent of her shampoo, and whispered, "We've got her." The confrontation came at the next HOA meeting, held in the stuffy community center that reeked of stale coffee and cheap air freshener. Chairs scraped against the linoleum floor as residents filed in, murmurs rising like a swelling tide. Karen presided at the front, gavel in hand, her lipstick a bold slash of red against her smug expression. "Order," she barked, the sharp crack of wood on wood silencing the room. I stood up, my knees wobbling slightly, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like angry bees. "Karen, you destroyed a public water supply," I declared, my voice steady despite the knot in my throat. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and her face paled for a split second before hardening into defiance. "Nonsense. That's my jurisdiction." But I held up the documents, the paper crinkling in my grip, and read aloud the county ordinance. Chaos erupted, shouts, chairs tipping over with metallic clangs, the air electric with outrage. Vince slunk in from the back, his burly frame casting a shadow. But even he looked uneasy, sweat glistening on his brow. "This is fraud," someone yelled. Karen's composure cracked. She slammed the gavel again, her breaths coming in short, ragged huffs. "Sit down, all of you." But it was too late. The dam had broken. As the scandal unraveled, the media descended like locusts, camera flashes popping like fireworks outside my house. Reporters shoved microphones in my face, their questions a barrage. How does it feel to take down the HOA queen? I sighed deeply, the weight of it all pressing on my chest, and replied, "It's not about me. It's about justice." Inside, Lena and I watched the news on our old couch, the fabric worn soft from years of family movie nights. The anchor's voice boomed. "New evidence shows Whitaker embezzled thousands through her brother's company." My heart ached with a mix of triumph and sorrow. Triumph for the truth, sorrow for the neighbors who'd suffered in silence. One evening, as crickets chirped in the twilight and the scent of barbecue wafted from next door, a knock echoed through our home. It was Sarah, a quiet widow from down the street, her eyes rimmed with tears. "I never spoke up before," she confessed, her voice trembling. "Karen fined me into debt after my husband died. Thank you for fighting." Her hug was fierce, an unexpected warmth that brought a lump to my throat. This wasn't just my battle. It was ours. The trial was a spectacle, the courtroom packed with spectators, the wooden benches groaning under their weight. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, peered over her glasses as prosecutors laid out the case. Karen sat rigidly in her orange jumpsuit, the clink of handcuffs a constant reminder of her fall. Witnesses testified, Hargrove with his gravelly anecdotes, neighbors recounting years of harassment. Vince turned state's evidence, his betrayal drawing a sharp intake of breath from Karen, her face twisting in betrayal. "You snake," she hissed, the words slicing through the tense air. I took the stand, my palms slick with sweat, describing the night of the sabotage, the rumble of the truck, the pour of concrete like a death knell. "She didn't just ruin my tank," I said, my voice breaking. "She endangered us all." The jury deliberated for hours, the clock ticking like a heartbeat in the hushed room. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, a collective exhale filled the space, followed by murmurs of relief. The judge's gavel fell with finality. MS. Whitaker. For sabotage of public infrastructure and embezzlement. You are sentenced to 5 years. Karen's scream pierced the air, raw and guttural, as bailiffs dragged her away, her heels scraping the floor in futile resistance. In the aftermath, as autumn leaves crunched underfoot and the neighborhood breathed easier, I stood by the excavated tank, workers buzzing around with drills whining and hammers pounding. The spring flowed again, clear and cold, a symbol of renewal. Lena slipped her hand into mine, her touch grounding me amid the chaos. We did it, she murmured, her breath warm against my ear. But the victory was bittersweet. Karen's downfall exposed the rot in systems we trusted, reminding us that power unchecked breeds tyrants. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in fiery oranges, I felt a surge of inspiration. Justice isn't handed down, it's fought for, one defiant stand at a time. And in that quiet suburb, we'd proven that even the smallest voices, united, can topple empires.